Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the RFM Audio Production channel, where we close the gate behind us. If you haven't guessed already, in today's episode, we are going to be taking a look at how to use a gate, where to use it, how to use it, maybe even a wee bit of a creative outlook on it as well. Don't forget, guys, to like, share, and subscribe, and even hit the wee bell icon, that way you guys don't miss a thing. Anyway, let's get straight into it and see what I have to say, shall we? So, what is a gate? A gate, or in some countries it's also known as a noise gate. It is sort of like it's a dynamics processor similar to compressor, but where a compressor reduces volume from above a certain threshold, a gate reduces the volume below a certain threshold. Okay. Now, for the most part, what we will be using a gate for is to actually mute the volume behind below a certain threshold. That's kind of a simple gist of it. So, I've already gone over why you need a gate. It is in order to make sure that it sounds clean, that anything in the background is gone, it's disappeared. Um, you can get a lot of bleed from other microphones if you're in a multi mic situation. Say you're doing a snare drum, which we're going to go over with this, and then I'll go over it with the vocal later. But say you're getting a lot of bleed and a lot of other instruments in your snare microphone, and you want to get rid of that, especially when the snare is not being hit. Right. That's kind of one of the main purposes or the main things I use gates on are drums. It really cleans it up. It gets a lot of the what do you call it? A lot of the muddiness, the spinniness that can come on. It can also help a lot with phase relationships between other microphones because now you've gotten rid of that little bit of delay in there. It will actually help a lot. Just help each instrument sound a lot punchier, especially in like a drum in a drum room. So, end of the day, we'll just summarize it all. A gate is something that reduces or completely eliminates noise below a certain level, and we use it in order to clean up that channel. Okay? So, I'm just going to put my headphones on, get my cans on, and we can actually get started with it. So I've got this drum track here. I've taken all the processing off, so nothing's really confusing or unfamiliar at all. This is a track. If you're curious, this is a track called "For Graham." Absolutely fantastic. But we're just going to be listening to the snare on its own. So if you listen to it, obviously you'll hear the rest of the drum kit included in this. You won't just hear the snare. Right, there we go. So you can hear the snare is supposed to be front and center of this particular microphone, but you can hear pretty much the rest of the kick. You can hear the kick, you can hear the cymbals, you can even hear the toms at some points as well. So our goal is to eliminate that as much as possible. Now, unless you proper had some seriously good like acoustic treatment around a snare, or if you use snare samples, then you're never going to completely eliminate every single other sound apart from the snare. Some of it's still going to come through, but we're trying to cut that down as much as possible. So let's engage the gate first of all, and we're going to go through the first parameter of a gate, which is probably the most important one, as it is the main deciding factor as to what gets cut out and what doesn't. It is the threshold. Okay, there is obviously a lot of other what do you call it plugins. Losing my words, dry mouth, kind of nervous. Not gonna lie. There is a lot of there's a lot of plugins that use the threshold to set just set different parameters. But again, yep, it's this one again. It's very similar. We're deciding a particular level as to which the gate basically opens and closes. Now, what we mean by that is when a level goes over the threshold, the gate will open and it will let all of the sound through. When it goes below this threshold, the gate will close again and sound should not get through or it'll be at a reduced level. Okay, so that's the great thing about this plugin is that to me it's named after something that makes so much sense. Is that it literally is like a gate opening and closing. Makes that very simple. Right. So let's start at quite a low threshold, and then we will work our way up to a point where we can hopefully just hear the snare, at least the attack of it. Right. There might be a lot of the body cut out of it, but we'll work in that soon. Right, that's not so bad. Obviously, when the gate is open, you can still hear what's lower levels, but the main focus, this brings the focus a lot more into the snare. You can hear when the snare is no longer playing, it is starting to disappear. See, there's not as much as those cymbals and the kick in the background. So now that you understand what the fundamental idea of a gate is, right? We've actually gone through the threshold, roughly what it is, and I've shown you on this. I've also recorded myself speaking because I feel like it can be relatively easy working on a snare to try and make sure you get the whole thing. Now, I will go over the vocals in a second, and I will probably come back to threshold because there is another parameter that isn't included in this particular gate, but we will come back to that. And it could be I'm pretty sure that other parameter will be very important to you guys. So I will go over the attack and release as well. So right now, we've got the attack at 0 and the release I had to open a little bit. If I put both of them at 0, you actually heard there what it sounded like. It's very choppy, but let's go through it again. So the attack determines how quickly the gate opens when something makes its way over the threshold. If I lengthen that attack, you can hear how softer and less transient the snare sounds. Sort of disappears. And if we just keep pushing it, then we'll no longer hear it. In most situations, I like to keep this attack at 0. If I wanted to soften, if I wanted to maybe like soften the dynamics, I would probably rather do that with a compressor, but you can absolutely do that with a gate. So when it comes to doing vocals or anything, I would suggest just leaving it at the default 0 milliseconds attack. Whereas release is something that I feel like you need a little bit more attention to in order to really properly get the proper use out of this gate. So you can hear it's just completely cutting off. So the release decides how long it takes after the level has gone below the threshold to properly close. So to which point it properly kicks in, or technically when it closes, it's engaging. When it opens, it's no longer engaged, it's no longer active, if you want to look at it that way. So if we let's try find a point where we've still got the nice bodied sound of the snare, but nothing likes of the rest of the kit is getting through too much, right? It's quite nice there. You can hear the rest of the kick is starting to come in there. See, if I keep going further, you can start to hear that. I think roughly about there is quite nice. This the good thing is that with the overheads that will help a little bit with the body as well, like keeping it all together. So let's kind of listen to it all. So
It don't mean anything. Just say goodbye, world, or party.
right. That's nice. That's got as much of the kit removed as we best could. Right? That's the great thing about it. Another parameter which is actually really useful is the hold parameter. If you have it, which you can see right here. So the hold parameter does it's very similar to the release. It basically forces the gate to remain open for that length of time. Now this can actually help a lot if you're having a problem with your ends trailing off. Maybe your ends are getting cut off instead of trailing the way you want them to. Now, if I leave that hold on for too long, then kind of goes off. But let's actually switch over to the vocal. I'm probably going to go over a lot of this again just to actually get give you guys a better feel and understanding of it. Um, the gate is very important in a lot of circumstances, especially in I find, as I've said, I find my biggest use is using it in with the drums. In this situation, I've taken a wee recording of myself. Just make sure nothing's on. That's fine. I've taken a wee recording of myself. Uh, Nothing
This is
special.
a testing 1, 2. This is a test for how to use a gate. We are going to see what we can do with this. This is a test for using a gate on vocals. Okay, if you listen to that vocal again, you can hear a little bit of room noise. You can even hear slight bits of me breathing as well. This is a testing 1, 2. This is a test for how to use a gate. We are going to see what we can do with this. This is a test for using a gate on vocals. Okay. So if I bring in the vocal now, the thing about vocals compared to a snare drum is that we have huge dynamics in it. It varies so much. We go up and down a lot, whereas a snare can be a lot more controlled, and it should be more controlled. So there's a lot more that can go wrong while we're gating a vocal. I have had this problem in the past. I used to use a gate on when I was doing audiobooks. I found another way of doing that, which I'm actually going to take you through near the end of the stream. Fantastic recommendation to you anyway. You've probably already noticed what it is. But in this situation, we're going to show you how you're best to use a gate. Um, you'll find that if you do stuff like streaming as well, OBS has got a gate, which is a very the gate's actually quite reasonable.
I have had to, if you listen to some of my older streams, you'll probably notice that I have cut out a couple of bits. I did have to uh, work it around, just kind of fix it a wee bit. But let's go for this anyway.
This is a test. Testing 1, 2. This is a test for how to use a gate. We are going to see what we can do with this. This is a test for using a gate on vocal.
Right. So you can see how dynamic it is. I've actually put everything back to 0. And if I put the threshold up to a certain point, you can hear it cutting out all the time.
This is a test. Testing 1, 2. This is a test for how to use a gate. We are going to see what we can do with this. This is a test.
Now, absolutely, we could take the threshold down, but we might come to a situation where eventually we're still hearing the background noise that's going on. Now, it's relatively quiet in this recording, I'm not going to lie.
This is a test. Testing 1, 2.
But you can
This is
also
a
hear
test for
the
how
end
to
of the
use a gate.
words are cutting out.
We are going to see what we can do with this. This is a test for using a gate.
Now, in order to make it sound a lot more natural, we need to use a combination of what we've just learned of the attack, the release, and the hold. Technically, the order of those will be attack first, then the hold, and then the release. So the hold comes before the release, just so you know. Your best. I found that the start of this is actually a little cut off, and I found that if I actually move the attack up, which I think is a bit strange,
This is a test.
kind of not makes it a bit more
This
natural.
is a test. Testing 1, 2. This is a test for how to use a gate. We are going to see what we can do with this. This is a test for using a gate on vocals.
Okay. Your best thing to do is probably start off with the hold. If you've got the hold here, is to actually push it up a little bit.
This is a test.
So like I said, what the hold does is after it drops below, or basically it forces the gate to stay open after it's dropped below the threshold.
This is a test. Testing 1, 2. This is a test for how to use a gate. We are going to see what we can do with this. This is a test for using a gate on vocals.
Now that's already starting to sound a lot better. There's still a lot more going through, but there's still little bits getting cut out near the end. So this is where we want to take the release. And basically the release, how the hold differs from the release, the hold forces the gate to stay open, whereas the release decides how long it takes for the gate to fully reset, to fully go back to 0 dB in this case. So if we push this up a wee bit.
This is a test. Testing 1, 2. This is a test for how to use a gate. We are going to see what we can do with this. This is a test for using a gate on vocals.
Okay.
Testing 1, 2. This is a test for how to use a gate. We are going to see what we can do with this. This is a test for using a gate on vocals.
Thank you very much, guys, for listening. If you've enjoyed what you've been listening to, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the bell notification icon. I release a video every Thursday. If you'd like to contact me, feel free to get in touch through my website, which will be down in the description. Hope you guys are keeping well, and I hope your snare is slamming.